Namaskar, friends. On behalf of HRDC Gujarat University, myself, Professor Preeti Mayani, welcome all of you. This HRDC of Gujarat University has created so many histories during the time of COVID. Today, we are going to uh, celebrate this our new education policy 2020, and a part of this uh, we have organized this webinar, online webinar. And friends, today we have our resource person, Dr. Neelam Panchalji. This webinar is on New Education Policy 2020, Good Academic Research Practices, Academic Research Integrity. So, on behalf of HRDC Gujarat University, again I am welcoming you. My colleague, Professor Dr. C.G. Brahmbhatji, is also with us. So, Dr. Neelam Panchal, C.G. sir, welcome you all, and also our dear participants. So, friends, let's I just have this opportunity to introduce Dr. Neelam Panchal. She has DLIT in management, PhD, MPhil with gold medal, MBA with gold medal. She is working as an associate professor and head of the Department of Public Policy and Governance, BK School, Gujarat University. DPPG runs courses like MBA in Public Policy Management, MBA in Business Economics and Public Finance, MBA in Event Management, PG Diploma in Public Finance and Economics, PG Diploma in Public Policy Management, and other courses under the umbrella of BK Professional and Management Studies, Gujarat University. She is also coordinator of courses like PG Diploma in Finance and Management, PG Diploma in Training and Development, PG Diploma in Information Technology Management, and PG Diploma in Materials and Operations Management, running under Management Academic Programs, working under the umbrella of BK School of Professional and Management Studies, Gujarat University. She is also a coordinator for various courses launched under Institute of Defense Studies and Research at Gujarat University. And she has published more than 120 research articles, more than 20 books, given so many lectures. She has developed 5 MOOCs and more than 130 content modules on various subjects of economics, commerce, and management. So, friends, I am I am requesting Dr. Neelam Panchal for sharing her views.
Thank you, Professor Preeti Mayani, Professor C.G. Brahmbhatt, Professor Jagdish Joshi, Director of UGC HRDC Gujarat University, and all the team members of UGC HRDC for always organizing such wonderful programs, starting with a workshop, refresher courses, annual refresher programs in different languages, just like Arpit and the courses. In addition, the short-term courses on the e-content development and so many other short-term courses also. In addition, we all are witnessing on our daily life that UGC HRDC is doing a great job in coordinating all online e-content creation training modules for the professors across the colleges and universities of the Gujarat. So it is so wonderful to be associated with this UGC HRDC Gujarat University, which is funded by MHRD under the RUSA grant. There are so many programs that has been conducted. So under the leadership of Professor Jagdish Joshi and with the team members like Professor Mayani, Professor Brahmbhatt, and all the members of the UGC HRDC. I congratulate all of you for this wonderful show that you are carrying on since last 2-3 years. Obviously, before that also you were doing all offline programs, but this is a wonderful platform by which you are organizing different activities. So I'm thankful to all the organizers for this program. So, friends, we all know that it is all about NEP 2020. And when you are talking about NEP 2020, New Education Policy 2020, and specifically when we are saying about the integrity of the research, we all know there are certain higher education institutions and certain what we can say institutions which are focusing upon research, which are research oriented institutes, and there are certain institutes which are categorized as an institutions which are more focusing upon the teaching learning process. But now, looking into the situation that has happened over here, it's very very important for all of us to be in the research. Now when we are in the research, maintaining the research integrity, that is a very very important part. So when we are saying maintaining the research integrity, the integrity of the research enterprise that test on the honesty and the trust, right? So as per the data of the United States National Institute of Health, they said that research integrity that includes the use of the honest and a verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research. What we do is basically looking into the data and that too in India, and the research that has happened in India. Many times we feel that why there are so many strict regulations that has come up. We feel that why it is compulsory to go for publishing in X category journal and Y category journal. We always feel that why as a PhD students I need to go for publication of minimum 2 or minimum 3, whatever as per the requirements. And then we also feel that why there are so many strict regulations that are coming up with reference to the plagiarism and all. So the answer to this all question is today's topic, and that is good academic research practices, the academic research integrity. Friend, it's very, very important to keep the research integrity. And with the help of the slide that I'm trying to show you over here, let us start the topic. So the today's topic is NEP 2020, good academic research practices, which is referring to the academic research integrity. So, friends, if we compare the research in National Education Policy 1986 and research in National Education Policy 2020, here you can see the difference, and whereby the major focus that I want to do over here is, as in new education policy, we all understand that the more focus is on the skill development, the more focus is on the education in such a way that the students are ready for jobs, the more focus is on the research. Even while providing the master degrees, or even when we are talking about the providing the graduation degrees, master degrees, or even PhDs and all, the more focus is all on the research. So here when we are talking about the new education policy 2020, the students are exposed to preliminary research throughout their undergraduate and the postgraduate courses. A 1 year research degree leading to an MPhil in any topic, it has been eliminated, we all know. So now what has come up instead of that? So instead of that, the focus is on the research. The undergrads and the postgraduate students, it has become not mandatory, but certainly the emphasis is given so that the students as a research base, the projects that we are giving, the certificate courses that we are doing, the graduation courses that we are doing, the post graduation courses we are doing, the main important thing is focusing upon the research. Even when we are talking about becoming an assistant professor in any higher education institutions, we say that it is mandatory requirement to have a net or slet or even the PhD in your hand. So again here the focus is on research. When we are saying PhD, we all know that first step is towards the research. On the other hand, when we are saying about the National Research Foundation and other organizations which are providing the research grants, We all know that there are so many organizations, and especially when we are talking about, DST, when we are talking about the National Research Foundations, when we are talking about the grants that has been received from ICSSR, even the other grants that are received for the science and the technology and other different fields, the major focus is on quality of the research. The major focus is on organizations that are allocating the research grants. On the other hand, when we are talking about the PhD programs coursework, we all know that now it is mandatory to do the coursework. And in that also, what we are trying to do is we are trying to include the research methodology, the teaching and curriculum building, as well as the subjects which are related to the research, irrespective of the areas in which you are into. Either you are into psychology, or you are into languages, you are into science, you are into management, you are into any other areas. It is important for you to go into research. It is important for you to find out something new. And so, the National Research Foundation, which is focusing upon establishment of the support system for the competitive and the creative research proposals that are being invited from different fields. Even when we are talking about the MOOC content, or if we are talking about the research content that is needed to be, developed, and so many people are developing for that, the main important emphasis here also is on the research. So now the question is, when the new education policy is focusing upon the research, what is research integrity means over here? What is and why it is required? What is the need of maintaining the research integrity? So let's try to understand this with the help of the definitions and with the help of the concepts that is given by the US National Institute of Health, which is saying that research integrity includes use of honest, verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research. Secondly, it is talking about reporting research results with a particular attention to adherence to the rules, regulation, and guidelines. Now, which guidelines it is talking about, that is very, very important to understand, and that we will discuss. And thirdly, it is talking about following commonly accepted professional codes and the norms. So, friends, let us try to understand this one after the other. Now, when we are saying research integrity, one of the very, very important aspect in the research integrity is ethics. And certainly we are focusing upon here the values. We are focusing upon here the what are the inclusions in the values. Because research by and large, if you are saying, it is a self-regulating and a self-policing process wherein the researchers conduct and present their research without any falsification and fabrication. So, the main thing is what we are doing many a times when we are in a journey of the research, at each stage, we are having a question mark. At each stage, we are thinking that what to do next. At each stage, we are thinking that whether it would be, you know, whether it would be able, whether it would be reliable, whether it would be required to go for looking into the topic, looking into the scenario, looking into the fields, looking into the process itself. It is very, very important for all of us to understand these areas, right? So first thing that is needed is ethics. When we are talking about the values, okay, so the first important aspect that we need to focus upon is ethics. What do I mean by ethics? As per the new education policy, these are the important areas in which you need to focus upon. So, the ethics, rigor, relevance, transparency, respect, impartiality, independence, and accountability. Now, let us try to understand what actually new education policy is trying to say about it. And that too, especially when we are saying about the integrity, and that too about the research, the first important thing is we have to be ethical. Now, when we need to be ethical, That is with reference to being ethical with reference to the selection. So the first thing that is come up while you are selecting a topic, what generally we are doing is when it is a matter of selecting of the topic, what we are trying to look into is here and there. We are trying to look into what my friend has does. We are trying to look into what are the other researches that has happened. We are trying to look into the gaps and we are framing the topic. Right. But then certainly many times we are doing some unethical things also. So here ethics means research to be conducted in ethical manner, ensuring dignity, rights, safety, and privacy, right, within the researcher's ecosystem. Secondly, it is focusing upon the rigor. Rigor here means research ensures high quality design. Friends, research design is a very, very important part. Okay. And importantly, when we are creating a research design and the reliability of the data, the appropriate use of the methods, rigorous and careful analysis, the transparent reporting and interpretation of the results, these are very, very important aspects. The third important aspect is relevance. So, friends, in the endeavor of expanding the knowledge base and understanding the environment and ecosystem, research advances and short and long term goals of the science and society. So, it's very, very important. The new education policy is saying that when we are talking about the academic research integrity, you have to be relevant. You have to see that how your research would expand the knowledge base, how your research would contribute for the development of the society, how your research will solve the problems either in the society or in the corporate, how your research will lead to contribute something in the environment and in the ecosystem. So the point is the new education policy is focusing upon that when you are talking about any topic or when you are talking about any research, you need to be relevant. And so the relevance is another point. The third and important point is a transparency. Friends, we all know that honesty is promoted through transparency, okay? And in developing, undertaking, reviewing, reporting, we do review a lot of papers. We do, report. We prepare a report. We communicate the reports. Sometimes when it is a project that has been received from DST or ICSSR or any other organizations based upon the science or technology, whatever it is, but the point is we need to be transparent. So transparency is one of again very, very important point. The fourth point that the UGC is focusing upon when we are talking about the good academic research practices is respect. It is saying that the process of research is aligned with the norms and traditions of the society. And it is like cultural heritage. So they are just trying to compare it with the cultural heritage with respect to all the colleagues, research participants, and environment. What happens is many a time as a faculty, for example, if I'm doing a research and I have students with me who are also doing a research or who are working under me, many times I don't give a proper recognition, or I may be putting my name as a first and a second name as a of the researcher who is a real researcher. So what the right now the new education policy is trying to say that respect whosoever it is in terms of the norms, in terms of the traditions, in terms of the cultural heritage that you are building. Somewhere you are building a cultural heritage. That is what the new education policy is saying. Another point that the new education policy is focusing in terms of research is impartiality. So the objectivity and a lack of bias, they are the core principles of the research. And so, that is very, very important part in the research. Another thing is independence. The new education policy is saying that the research functions must be insulted from both appearance and the reality of undue influence of the funders. It's very, very important that funding agencies do funding, but undue influence of the funders or other non-researchers with a stake in the outcome of the research is sometime leading to a problem. So, what the new education policy is trying to say is to promote the objectivity, researchers should be allowed independence in the design. They should be allowed independence in terms of the conduct of the research, in terms of the analysis of the research, in terms of the interpretation, in terms of the dissemination of the research and the research findings. So the most important thing is independence. Many times what happens is just in case of the PhD guides also, that happens that the researcher or the students who are working under them, they have to report, they have to show, and if the guide feels that it is not okay, then many a times they have to change even the objectives and maybe the research design and maybe the methods, because the perspective of the guide or the perspective of the experts may be different from the researcher. But believe me, it is important to see that what researcher want. And as a researcher also, you as a researcher should understand that you have independent role. You are a researcher and you better know about a particular topic when you are going a deep, then your guide, then your colleague, then your experts, or then anybody who is in the panel. And so what the researchers need to do as per the focus of the new education policy is, you need to be clear about your ideas, you need to clear about your thought processes, you need to go in detail about what you actually want to do. And when you are into that, when you are clear about what you want to do, then nobody can stop you. Why? Because when you are clear, you can explain, you can justify, you can give the reasons, and you can explain to the other person that this is the root cause and this is the issue and this is the analysis, this is the way of conduct, this is the design, or whatever it is. And so as per the new education policy, it is trying to say that you should try to be independent, and that is focus upon as a good academic research practices. On the other hand, accountability in the research is very, very important. So research comply with both the spirit and the letter of relevant rules and the procedures, such as regulations governing professional standards, right? So accountability is very, very important. Many times what happens is, we go for the publication and we go for so many scheduled rules and regulations, the roles, the procedures, we are trying to follow that. But then on the other hand, when it is a matter of instances of alleged misconduct, okay, then that are rare. So the main point here is, if and when they occur, they are effectively promptly addressed in a fair and a timely fashion, so with the sensitivity towards the rights of all the concerned. So integrity in research here implies that these values permeate every aspect and are upheld by all the research involved in an enterprise. So, sorry. So, when you're saying a good academic research practices, then the main point over here is you should try to look into that you are able to focus upon the fair practices. You are able to focus upon the rules and regulation. You are able to focus upon the accountability. You are able to focus upon the values that we have discussed. And those values includes ethics, rigor, relevance, independence, accountability, transparency, respect, impartiality, so on and so forth. So, friends, now the main point is how to bring these all values in the research and in which stage of the cycle. So in which stage it has to be brought, that is very, very important. Okay. So the main thing over here is whenever you are trying to incorporate these type of changes or this type of system in your enterprise, you have to make sure and you have to build up that. So for that, what you're required to do is there are three stages that we generally follow in any research. And these three stages include: number one is research design. Number two is conduct of research. And number three is research dissemination. So let us try to understand it one after the other. The first is research design. Now, in the research design, when you are planning for your research, the first stage that comes up is a planning. What you are doing is you are choosing the topic, you're choosing research questions, you're trying to analyze those questions from the critical point of view. You're trying to see that the creation of the new knowledge and the translations that happens, you're trying to see that it is impacting to the the real problems of the society. You're trying to look into that it really matters much. And one of the key objectives of your research is identified. So, in the first stage, when you are going for formulating the research design, at that time when you are in the planning stage, you need to find out and you need to have checklist. So what is that checklist? First is describe the research objectives and rationale. What you need to do as per the new education policy, it is trying to categorize the academic integrity in research into various steps. So research design is categorized in the first step as a planning. So in planning, what you're required to do is you need to describe the research objectives and a rationale. Okay, so what you would do over here, when you want to describe and when you are in the planning stage, you need to first of all ask, what type of project you are planning into, what type of rules and responsibilities you have, and in addition to that, what you are actually aiming at. So you need to develop a project plan in such a way that with the milestones, with the roles, with the responsibilities that is going to happen, you are going to do that. On the other hand, you have to ensure the viability of the study in view of the resources, expertise, facilities, and funding. Here, what you need to do is in advance, while you are framing your research design, you need to make sure that you are clear about the resources through which you are going to get a fund. You are clear about the experts from whom you will get a guidance. You are clear about the functioning. You are clear about the relevant regulations that you're going to follow. You are clear about the ethical, organizational, and the other guidelines. And importantly, while you're planning for the research design, you need to seek requisite licensing also. So, all the licensing, all the approvals, all the permissions that you are required while you want to conduct a research, I think as per the academic integrity, you should do that all in the planning stage itself. So when you are designing your research, okay, so when you are deciding about the research methodology and designing about it, you need to make sure that you complete it in the planning stage itself. The second thing that you need to do is you need to have proper research questions and documentation. Now, when you're documenting here means a good research question. And good research question, when you are asking to yourself before you start, what you need to do is you need to have a clarity about your research questions. You need to be focused about it. That is to ensure the feasibility given to available resources and a time frame. Another thing is your research questions should be concise, brief, and comprehensive. Okay, it should be very comprehensive. It should give an idea to any other person who is reading it. Okay. Another thing is it should be logical. Logical here means to ensure that the available evidence that supports the research claims. So you need to be logical while you are providing the research design. On the other hand, when you formulate the research questions, there are three things that you can do as a researcher. Okay, so that the academic integrity is possible. One thing is you can consult to the experts well in advance. Second thing is understand the relevant theories and available data and records before you pause the objectives, before you freeze the objectives, right? You can meet to the experts, you can look into here and there, you can look at the relevant theories that are available, you can look into the data that is available, and you can try to do relevant literature review. Now, when it comes to literature review, all of us know that when it comes to literature review, many of us, especially those who are a new researcher, what they're trying to do is from the abstracts available or from the research papers available, they're trying to pick some words, okay, or they are trying to pick some para and then do the paraphrasing and then framing and then write a literature review. But that's not the right way. And so, there are certain essential steps that you should follow as a part of academic integrity. So, the first is try to frame the research questions in terms of the existing literature. Whatever literature is available, what does it say? Try to frame the research questions in terms of the existing literature. Second is consult relevant database. So database presently whichever is available, you need to consult, you need to text for the search, you can give some words and put those words for searching. Another thing is what as a new researcher or any researcher should do is listing out the relevant keywords. The main mistake that we are doing is we are sticking to our title, we are sticking to our main title or a subtitle, and then we are just trying to go for literature review just on the basis of the title. But what we need to do is we can list out the key words for our research. Say for example, I want to do a research on the say sustainable development goals. Okay, so sustainable development goals is one of one of the keyword. But what in that, say for example, if I want to analyze what is the success of the or what is the level of achievement of the sustainable development goals, right? So if I want to compare previously what was that and right now what is the situation and what is the gap where we should focus upon now in the present scenario. Now if I want to do the research, if I want to do literature review on this topic of achieving or trying to look into what is the achievement of the sustainable development goals in 2022, what many of us would do is we will search for achievement of the sustainable development goals. While doing review of literature, we will say what is the sustainable development goal? What has been done so far? What are the practices that has happened in the sustainable development goals? So we all revolve around pausing and putting the questions and putting the points in the Googling on the main words and not the relevant keywords. I must know while doing the literature review for the sustainable development goals, I must know that I'm talking about the sustainable development goals. And I must know that there are 17 sustainable development goals. So I can go for finding out the key words that are related to my research. And accordingly, I can go for entering the keywords, key phrases, as well as well-known key references, the people who have really worked for the sustainable development goals, and the things like this is just a small example I'm giving. Another point that we need to keep in mind for academic integrity, and that too while doing a literature review, we have to ensure the search results they are easily retrievable and traceable. Many times, what we do is we go on doing the literature review, okay, and when it is a matter of writing down the references and bibliography, then I am not aware about where I started with and where I'm ending. Okay, so many times what happens is we are not able to retrieve. We have neither saved a link, we have neither saved references, neither, I mean, nothing is traceable. And now I am in the stage where I have to write a chapter on references, or I have to write at the end of the research paper, I need to write down the references or bibliography. So in that case, what I do is simply then I will again put literature on sustainable development goals, and whatever is coming to me I'll put it as a references. And so what happens is, in reality, it is not the way, it is not matching with your literature, and so ultimately it comes for again revision in the research, and it is again not giving a real picture, right? And so revising on the original question, if it is necessary, you should do that. And you have to make sure that carefully we have to ensure that we have to rely on the high quality and reliable resources. So that is the second very important thing that is needed to be looked into. And importantly, the new education policy has given a checklist also. I don't know whether you are able to see it on the screen or not, the PPT part. So there are certain questions that has been given by the UGC, and it is focusing upon, when you are doing a literature review, you have to see that, is the information reliable? The first question that you should ask to yourself, is the source reliable? Is the information reliable? Second thing you need to check is the information error free? Because if the information that you have taken for the literature review, if it is full of errors, then you are taking it as a base. And if you are taking a wrong information as a base, then your research will not be of any value. So the second question that you need to ask is the information error free? The third, is the information factual? Factual means, is it full of facts and figures, or is it giving you a right data or right information? You need to check that. Fourthly, you should try to look into, is the information verifiable? That is again a very important part. We need to check whether the information is reliable or not, right? So when you are conducting a research, the next thing that we need to look into is, while conducting the research, we need to focus upon that the execution happens at a particular stage. The next important thing that we need to ask is, we need to ensure that, or we need to ask that, what are the professional credentials of the author? We need to look into, does the author have subject matter expertise on the topic or not? Is the information relevant or not? Is there any clear distinction made between the facts and opinion or not? Is the information biased or not? Right? As a person who is doing a literature review, I need to be very focused about the execution part. Right? So once I do the proper literature review, I need to be very clear about the data, about the research methods, about the analytical approach that I'm trying to do. Right? On the other hand, what I'm trying to do is, I need to look into the choice of the research techniques that I'm doing. So, the very important thing that I need to do while I'm executing is, I need to see the documentation, I need to see the data storage part. I need to check what data were collected and when were they recorded. Very important for me to analyze whether the data that was collected, where it was collected, when it was collected, whether it was collected in 1990 and right now I'm doing research in 2022. Is there any relevance of the same or not? So, the data when I collected it, whether it is having some relevance or not, I need to check. I need to check about, whether the data collected at different level of analysis or not. I need to check the population size. I need to check the subsample. I need to check the study design match the purpose or not. I need to check the data integrity that has been assured or not. And the data cleaning process, whether I have done the data cleaning process or not, that is also very, very important to look into. How was the data integrity ensured? That is also very, very important. So, friends, when we are doing the execution part, research data and the related files need to be stored securely. Okay, and we need to ensure the clear data ownership and accountability. We need to see that the data integrity by using a copy of the original data. Many times we don't do the careful reliable data collection. We don't go for the proper storage of the data. We don't go for proper retrieval of the data, and so many times it leads to misinterpretation, it leads to plagiarism, it leads to falsification, or it leads to fabrication or the misinterpretation. Now many times, these are the words where the people are getting confused. What is fabrication or a falsification or a plagiarism? So fabrication here means making up the data or results. Falsification means manipulating the research material. For example, manipulation here means I am using the research material or research paper of someone else, or I am using the equipment or the processes, or I'm simply change the data or change the names, or I'm simply trying to put the data in some other way, okay, and manipulate the materials. Okay, so that happens so frequently, and that is again leading to breaking the rules of the academic integrity. On the other hand, the third is a plagiarism. So the appropriation of another person's idea. Many a times what we do is we are trying to take the ideas or the processes or the results or the words, without appropriate credit to a particular person, right? We don't give it, citation. We don't show it. We don't put it in commas. We don't put it in quotes. We don't put it in a way it should be put. Even we don't write it in a literature, neither we are doing the citation, and somewhere it is leading to the plagiarism. So copying the text from another author without permission is a plagiarism. Again, when we are copying someone else's research idea, that is also a plagiarism. When we are redoing someone else people's research without informing or without referring its original work, that is also plagiarism. The new education policy is focusing upon, this topic is a very, very important. It is trying to say that when you want to put the research, when you want to, put a particular idea in general, a person using another idea or another person's text or another person's data or another person's results, okay, then he should identify the author. He should document the source. Okay. So, intellectual property, regardless of the format, it should be appropriately attributed to the author. That is very, very important. Again, the researcher should neither submit previously published result. Many times, what happens is, I, as Dr. Neelam Panchal, I wrote a paper in 1990. Then I rewrote the same paper on the same theme in 2000, and then again in 2015 with the same thing by re-paragraph and this and that I'm reproducing, and then I'm saying it is my paper. What is so problematic? But I tell you that that is also called a self plagiarism. The new education policy is focusing more upon fabrication. So, avoid fabrication, avoid falsification, avoid plagiarism, and avoid, importantly, self plagiarism, which is very, very important, right? The third thing that this policy is focusing upon is focusing upon the collaboration and authorship. Now what happens is many time we go for the collaboration, we go for authorship, and what happens is we are not recognizing that authors, right? So what was the goal of the project? What are the outcomes? is the role of X author and role of Y author, how the data was collected, how it was stored, how it was shared, right? How the data, the research design, how it has played role, which person has role in drafting the publications, what was the criterias that were being used, right? So who was responsible for all type of report submission or criterias or identification of the contributing authors that we are not doing. And many times, intellectual property rights and ownership issues are also one of the important aspects that are not happened, right? So another important point that the new education policy is focusing upon is a intellectual property, right? So research in computer science, engineering, and life sciences, and the other fields also, it is talking about, the research which can be protected by patents or trademarks, copyrights, or another form of guarantees, right? So proper assignment of the intellectual property and preservation of the important associated economic values, that is very very important. And especially when you are assigning the intellectual property rights to the extent possible to the stakeholders, at the start of the good research project, you should try to see that who would play what role and what way you want to go for intellectual property rights. So that is also one of the emphasis that has been given by the new education policy. On the other hand, friends, there is one more part that has been focused upon here in the new education policy, and that is focusing upon or giving the right dissemination. Dissemination here means dissemination of information. So, selection of the right medium for publication, choosing the right journal for publication, and translation of the research. That is also very, very important. So what happens is many times by selecting the journal or selecting the right medium for the publication, that's again a question mark, right? So there are some journals which are predatory journals. While you are identifying what is the right journals, what you do is you should try to look into, number one is you should try to avoid to go for pay and publish type of journals, irrespective of whatever may be the way, but avoid pay and publish. Second thing is no journal should be selected where there is no journal website and no clarity on the aim and scope of the journal. Number three is use of misleading and inaccurate self generated impact factors. That is also very important. Fourth thing that you should look into is editorial board members. There are certain predatory journals where there are no editorial board that has been mentioned. So that is also one of the sign where you can get into idea that whether the journal is proper or not. On the other hand, publication of obviously poor quality content. If you observe the content of the journal, then also you can get an idea that at what level the journal is, right? So, what to do for choosing the right journal, a right or appropriate journal? So, the first thing that you need to check, many a times what we do is we are submitting the research paper in any of the journal and then we are saying that it is not accepted. We are saying that they are taking 2 years, we are taking, it is taking long time, and many times we are getting a comment that it does not, your paper does not match to our goal or objective. So, what should I check as a researcher? What is academic integrity and what is the new education policy focusing upon? Is number one, try to check, do the aim and scope of the journal match that of the research? That is, for example, if I am doing a research on sustainable development goals and if journal is Finance India and I'm putting my paper in Finance India journal, it is not going to be accepted. Or if I'm doing a paper on finance and the journal is of marketing or it is of agriculture, I assuming that ho jayega and I'll go ahead, that is not going to happen. So the first thing that I need to look into the aim and scope of the journal, whether the aim and the scope of journal matching to my aim of paper or my research or not. Second, has the journal published article of the similar nature? Up when you go for any website of any journal, you can check aim and scope. Number one. Number two, you can look into the journal publication articles, whether it is of similar nature or not. The other articles, that is, say for example, issue one, issue two, issue three. You just go ahead and just check whether that issues or whether that publication has same type or same nature of the topics which you are interested into. Third thing that you need to look into is what is the journal's peer review process. That is again very, very important. And the fourth thing that you need to check is, does the journal reach the relevant audience? Because we all know that there are so many journals. And the journals, 70% of the journals, we even don't know names. Okay. We just find out the journals and send our paper on the basis of which is the fastest or which is which is visible. Okay, and many times we just try to look into that, my case is coming or my APA need to be increased, and so I should target as quick as possible. I need to go for minimum 2 or minimum 4, and so let me finish that way. And we are not looking into the aim or scope of the research work. We are not looking into the published article of the similar nature. We are not looking into the submission requirements even. Just aankhein band karke we are just uploading the papers, right? We are again not looking into what is the journal intended for, whether the journal is for geographic, whether the journal is for finance, whether the journal is for science or what. Sorry. We also need to look into we also need to look into the impact factor and the rank of the journal. Journal impact factor is generally many time people are confused. Journal impact factor is the ratio of the number of citations to the journal's articles to the number of citable articles published in that journal over a fixed period of time. So one should try to look at the relevant standing of the journal in a subject category. So whatever is your subject category, you should try to look into the main criteria. Try to see that you have to determine the aspects of the journal quality, and you have to look into the peer review process and whether your manuscript that you are submitting, it should be of the same style, of the journal style, format, guidelines. You have to follow that. You have to look into the proper rationale of study. You have to look into the superficial treatment of the subject matter. The title that you are framing, that should be again catchy, because poorly designed study are not acceptable, right? So you need to have a clarity in terms of the writing. Another important thing that the new education policy is focusing upon is about the institutional research program management. The NEP 2020 has focused upon, Office of the Research Integrity, whereby they are focusing upon the good governance. They are saying that research has always been a competitive endeavor. Okay. And so whatever you are trying to focus upon or whatever you are trying to give, okay, you should try to look into the Office of Research Integrity. Thereby, it means that you should try to look into the governance. You should try to look into the training part. You should try to look into the interest of the people, interest of the audience, interest of the researcher. And importantly, you have to build upon ORI. That is, you must build up upon the principles that are listed in the document, the code of conduct that you are going to adopt. That you have to keep in mind as per the new education policy. Now, the main thing here is training. So, many a times, what happens is the research program, the new education policy has focused upon conducting the research programs and the research community. It has responded to a growing concern regarding the research integrity and holding the references, holding the conferences, holding the training programs, holding the workshop like this. Okay, and try to see that conflict of interest of the institution and the researcher does not arise. So it has to be clear and it has to be maintained that the conflict of interest arises when the researcher can derive personal gain. So if as a researcher, if you are deprived of a personal gain, what is there in for me? If you're thinking like that, what would be the benefit to me? What would be the benefit to my institution out of that? Instead of thinking about the institution, if you think what is my personal gain while acting as an official capacity, then the conflict of interest arises, right? So conflict of interest arises, the situation will happen where the financial and the other personal considerations will come, and thereby there would be bias in case of research also. So to avoid the conflict of the interest, what we are required to do is we need to declare that there is no perceived financial or professional conflict of interest. So, as per NEP, it focuses upon constituting and following a policy of complete disclosure, okay, especially with reference to the financial conflicts, because many times institution and personal conflicts that come into the picture, and so the new education policy is focusing upon that. On the other hand, it also focusing upon the scientific merits when conducting the grants or a manuscript evaluation, and also undergoing the training to the personal conscious and the unconscious biases of the people. So when you are in an institution, you have to make sure that this thing doesn't happen. And lastly, when this new education policy and the academic integrity matter that comes upon, the NEP is trying to say that whenever either it is a doctoral programs, because most of us are working in different institutions, and researchers particularly in the university, we are having a multiple roles. So we are serving in different committees also, and for the larger community, for the research platform, for the mentoring, for the researcher, we are working in different platforms. And so in addition to overall roles that we are playing, it is very very important for us as an individual to make sure that we engage our students minimum to prepare at least one research project. Number two is we have to make sure that our students are aware about ethical research practice. Okay, we have to make them learn about being ethical researcher. Otherwise, they will also copy paste, paraphrasing, reparaphrasing, and we all know by now how plagiarism and the rules and regulations of the UGC has come up with reference to the plagiarism. So if they have plagiarized and if you are putting your name as a co-author, then we all know what are the consequences. So it's always better that as a researcher, as a teacher, as a guide, I have to make sure that my students are clear about ethical research. In addition, I as an individual, what should I do? Because NEP is on paper, we are saying that NEP implementation kab hoga, we don't know, but it is not like that. It is not on paper, it is all on paper to guide us. And once we have the guidelines, it is all in our hands to start practicing it, right? Until unless we practice, until unless we start working toward that. Okay, and for that, I as a teacher, I have to play the role in doing the things and in guiding my students that way. On the other hand, I can provide academic advice, to my students. I can build a support system. I can carefully plan and execute the research protocols. I can carefully guide them for the safety procedures in terms of research. I can try to diligently accuration of the data. I can try to observe what they are doing, how they are disseminating the information, and I can try, observing that whether they are regularly doing the things or not. And so mentoring the next generation, that is a very, very important task. If we are mentoring them in the right way, I think the NEP 2020, which is talking about, academic integrity at the research level, right? That is no far to achieve. So the only thing that we all need to do is, when you are guiding the next generation students, we need to make sure that we tell them about the integrity. We teach them about maintaining the research integrity. We tell them about maintaining these values. They should be ethical, they should be rigor, there should be relevance, there should be transparency, there should be respect, there should be impartiality, independence, and accountability at each level, wherever and whenever they are doing the research. So either it is a level of planning, that is research design, conduct of research, or research dissemination, whichever is the level for academic research, at each level we need to guide them. Either it is research design level, or it is conducting research level, or it is dissemination level, or it is institutional research program level. Ultimately, mentoring the next generation is the right way. So for that mentoring, the first and the foremost thing that I need to do is, I need to be ethical. If I am ethical, and if I am, going to do it in a proper way, then people are going to follow me, right? And so the most important thing is, we all need to be good researcher. And uh, really, this documentation of the NEP 2020, and that too with reference to the good academic research practices and academic integrity, if you refer, then it really, really, it's talking about wonderful, ways in which you can go ahead with the research and you can carry on the research. It is such a long exercise when you try to read the document, but then, when you are trying to come up with a crux of them, then really, if you try to understand each and everything out of that, then you are done with the research, and somewhere it will only lead to the academic integrity in the research in the present era, which is the need of the day. So I request all the faculty members, all the students, and all the members who are listening over here, to maintain the academic integrity, and especially with reference to the certain aspects that we have discussed today. I'm again thankful to Professor Mayani, Professor Brambhat, Professor Joshi, and all the team of the HRDC for this opportunity to discuss on the NEP 2020 and the aspects of the research. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session, and just I'm looking at the chat box. It's really full of positive energy. So it was really excellent session by you, Dr. Neelam Panchalji. Now I'm requesting Professor C.G. Brambhat sir for the word of thanks. Sir.
Thank you, madam. It's my pleasure to
Thank
do
you,
a lot
sir.
of things. First, I would like to thanks our respected Dr. Himanshu Pandya sir and our registrar Dr. P.M. Patel sir for their constant support. I equally thankful to today's resource person Dr. Neelam Ben Panchal for sharing her valuable knowledge. Thank you, madam, for your session is very interesting and very useful to our participant. I am also again thankful to Neelam Ben. I am also equal to thankful to all the participants for choosing our HRDC. I am also thankful to our director, Dr. Jagdish sir, and my colleague, Dr. Preeti madam, and my HRDC staff. Thank you, friends, everyone. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, madam, Preeti madam, and Nilam ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, friends, for choosing this HRDC Gujarat University. Be with us. Just look at our website of HRDC Gujarat University. It's very dynamic website, and you have as Neelam ma'am has just rightly said, that mentoring the new generation. So it is according to that. So please be with HRDC Gujarat University. Have a great day. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you.